This is CBC Here and Now.
At the time, their description of a couple was a man and a woman.
Fighting CN Railway for a spousal pension that's been denied because being gay didn't count.
We had some thunderstorms today for parts of the island, but unfortunately the rain and snow continues for Labrador.
We're happy that it happened when the ship was here, because if the ship had left Canada's jurisdiction on a 30 or 40-day voyage, Lord knows what would happen to those seafarers.
A COVID outbreak on board a cargo ship. It was headed to Europe, but now it's anchored in Conception Bay.
12 cases on board, 1 in hospital. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. A Harbour Grace man says railway giant CN is discriminating against him because he's gay.
Ken Hare spent 33 years with the love of his life, but when his partner died, it came with an extra shock.
Ryan Cook reports.
Jerry Schwartz spent 30 years working with CN Rail. The only longer commitment in his life was the 33 years he spent with his partner Ken Hare. Schwartz retired in 1991 and the couple moved to Newfoundland to live their dream retirement in 2003.
Wherever he went, people loved him, and he was just a good person. And he was confident moving to Newfoundland because he thought with his pension, we could live fairly comfortably.
It didn't end that way. Schwartz died unexpectedly in 2012, and a month later, Hare got a letter from CN saying he wasn't eligible for his partner's pension.
I suddenly went from being Jerry's common law spouse to being just a roommate.
And the reason being?
They said their description at the time, their description of a couple was a man and a woman.
CN changed that policy in 1998 to make it open to LGBT couples, but it wasn't made retroactive. Because Schwartz retired in 1991, Hare has no claim to his pension.
I was more insulted by the fact that they didn't acknowledge that during, after all those years and all the people that he worked with, they still didn't acknowledge the fact that Jerry and I were a couple. We were a couple in every sense of the word.
In a statement to CBC News, CN says, quote, "We realize that some former practices and decisions made in good faith in the past need to be re-examined in light of our engagement toward diversity and inclusion. The company says a review of policies for employees who retired before 1998 is underway." After 9 years fighting this quietly, Ken Hare has hired a lawyer and he's intent on taking this to court. And a leading expert in the field says he actually has a great shot.
I don't really think that CN has much of a defense, quite frankly.
Doug Elliott won a case in 2007, allowing LGBT widows access to Canada Pension Plan benefits retroactive to 1985. He feels Hare has a slam dunk.
It's a terrible economic burden, but it's also a terrible psychological burden. To be told by someone that your relationship doesn't count, that your relationship was second rate, and that they're going to try and erase that relationship or devalue it, especially after the man devoted his life to CN Rail. It's really reprehensible.
The financial burden eventually caught up with Ken Hare. He sold their house in Harbour Grace and nearly everything in it.
I basically don't have anything left that we had when we moved here to Newfoundland.
And what do you think Jerry would think of you having to do that?
Oh, it would have broke his heart. It would have broke his heart.
Ken Hare says he's dug in for one last fight, and he feels his husband pushing him along. Ryan Cook, CBC News, Harbour Grace.
Well, we're into the first week of May now, so I thought that we would talk about how wet April was. We did finally, we did break the record. We broke it a little bit earlier in the month, but 291.6 millimeters is where we ended up, so we definitely broke that 260 millimeter record from 1951. In average, we were well above where we should see the rainfall. About 96.1 millimeters is what we would normally see in April. Now, May started off pretty beautiful. We've seen some pretty warm temperatures reaching the double digits again today. 10 in St. John's, 9 in Gander, and then we've got those temperatures into the mid-single digits along the west coast, and then up to 8 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay earlier today. Now, we do have an area of low pressure that's spinning. It's pretty cold in the upper atmosphere. We've seen lots of grapple with this across the island. and some snow for parts of Labrador, even some lightning earlier today. So more than likely for Bonavista North, anywhere there has seen some hail through the afternoon today. But as we head through the night, a few more hours of some showers possible, and then I'll get into the rest of the details on your forecast coming up.
Some beer cans.
A couple living in St. John's has noticed a lot of trash on the trails around Signal Hill, so they started picking it up.
I just don't understand how there's so much trash.
I'm Jeremy Eaton. I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
13 people on board a cargo ship anchored in Conception Bay are COVID-19 positive. Tonight, the company that owns the vessel isn't saying very much, while the National Seafarers Union says the situation underscores the dangers for those who work in the shipping industry. Here Now's Heather Gillis reports.
Today, another crew member of the Federal Montreal, a cargo ship moored off Kelly's Island in Conception Bay South, has tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total to 13. One crew member was so sick they were medevaced to hospital last week.
It's been tough since the pandemic was thrown upon us.
Jim Given is the president of the Seafarers International Union of Canada. It represents some of the 19 workers on board the Federal Montreal, owned by Montreal-based FedNav.
As bad as COVID is, and you never want to hear anybody getting COVID, we're happy that it happened when the ship was here. Because if the ship had left Canada's jurisdiction on a 30 or 40-day voyage, Lord knows what would happen to those seafarers.
According to Vessel Finder, the ship left Montreal a week ago. The Public Health Agency of Canada says it was notified Thursday that a sick crew member needed medical attention. It said the crew are following public health orders. They were tested on the ship and remain there. The province says there's no risk of community spread, and the ship is working with Eastern Health and the Public Health Agency of Canada. The ship's owner, FedNav, declined an interview, but in an email, it said they're collaborating with authorities and that our priority and efforts remain with the health and safety of our people and the population. Given says seafarers play a huge role in getting goods across the country. Now he's fighting to get his members vaccinated because he says in close quarters, like on a ship, COVID-19 can spread quickly.
We just had a vessel called the Atlantic Huron where the crew went back to work on April the 1st. Some of those people from Newfoundland. They were tested when they boarded April 1st. The 25-member crew all tested negative. And by the 15th of April, they were taken off the ship and quarantined in a hotel in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and 18 out of 25 had COVID-19.
Given says shipping crews typically work within a bubble and there are strict protocols prior to boarding, including testing. He says crews haven't had shore leave since the pandemic began. He says working in a confined area for months on end is weighing on some people's mental health. The union president says 2 of his Canadian members have died from COVID-19, while 50 have been infected. He says things are getting worse now with virus variants. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, in addition to those cases that Heather just told you about, there are 4 new cases of COVID-19 in the province today. One is related to travel. The others are close contacts of a known case. This is in addition to 18 new cases announced over the weekend for a total of 56 active cases.
So what do health officials make of this spike in cases, and where are all the positive cases coming from? Here Now's Peter Cowan has been trying to get some answers on this. So Peter, what do you know about the cases reported today and over the weekend?
Well, Carolyn, if you look at today and the weekend, there are 28 cases that were announced over the last 3 days. They're almost all related to travel. So let's break those numbers down for you. So the bulk of the cases are travel. 11 of those are related to domestic travel, or 39%. There are 14 international travel cases, although that's a bit deceiving because all but one of those are related to that ship that Heather was talking about in her story there. And 4 cases, or 10%, are close contacts. So that gives you a bit of a breakdown there. Neither the Chief Medical Officer of Health or the Health Minister would do an interview today, but in today's news release, the Department of Health says, while we understand the recent increase in COVID-19 cases is concerning, it is not unexpected given the epidemiology elsewhere in the country. We want to assure the public that the recent cases are isolating and there's no concern of community spread at this time. The department says they are expecting this spike in cases for sort of two main reasons. The first is because we're seeing a spike in cases elsewhere, and so anyone who arrives in the province is now more likely to develop the disease. Secondly, the province has reported more travel. So I wanted to know, why is that and who exactly is traveling? So here are some of the numbers. In March, there were almost 200 people who were granted exemptions to come here. In April, that number rose to 327. So that's about a 60% increase in travel exemptions granted over the month before. So why are people traveling? The Department of Health says it's a number of things. Students are returning to the province. People who spend their winters elsewhere are also coming back. And they also say that more people are moving this time of year. And they say that rotational workers also make up some of the increase in travel as well.
Okay, and Peter, you also have an update on vaccinations. Who is now eligible to get a shot?
Yeah, so they've expanded the criteria. Health authorities today lowered the age for people to get their shot. It's now anyone 60 or above. It was 65. So this group could get a shot of AstraZeneca before, but what they've done is they've now opened it up for the Pfizer and Moderna shots. They also announced today that anyone who's pregnant can now get vaccinated. That's following new national guidance that suggests that people who are pregnant get one of the two mRNA vaccines. Carolyn?
Thanks so much, Peter. That's Here Now's Peter Cowan reporting live. Well, tonight, the president of Memorial University says she's open to raising student fees. Late last week, a provincial report was released that recommends lifting the long-standing tuition freeze. Vian Timmins says overall, she's pleased with the 350-page report, calling it realistic. And while students won't see a hike in fees in the immediate future, she says the university needs revenue.
We see the importance of looking at revenue for the university, but we have some principles that we always will keep in mind. We want the university education to be accessible. We want to make sure that our Newfoundland and Labrador students are supported and have supports in place so that it's not undue hardship for them financially. And right now there is no intention of making any changes for the tuition for next year.
Memorial's tuition freeze has been in place for nearly 20 years. The president says recent cuts to programming and staffing underscore the need for more revenue. We'll have more of my conversation with Vian Timmins in a little over 15 minutes on Here and Now.
Well, people in the local Sri Lankan community gathered for a small service in Flat Rock over the weekend. They were there to mourn Supal Jayasinghe, a memorial student who slipped into the ocean while out for a walk with his parents and their dog. It happened a little under 2 weeks ago, on the same day that Jayasinghe finished his exams. The family thanked the pilots as well as the first responders and other volunteers who gave up their time to search for their son. While there's no Buddhist temple in this province, the family says temples across Canada have been holding ceremonies in honor of the young man.
The gap he left is never going to be filled forever. It remains in our hearts. But we live with these difficulties. Now we are passing this difficult time gradually. But keep hope. That's the only thing. Living with the hope.
Well, 2 deadlines have come and gone, and still no clear picture when it comes to the future of one of the province's 4 oil fields. But now words such as decommissioning and abandonment have entered the conversation as it relates to the Terra Nova field. Suncor Energy issued a series of expressions of interest last week seeking proposals from companies for 2 scenarios. One is the complete decommissioning of the Terra Nova FPSO, shown here tied up at the dock in Bull Arm, and abandoning the Terra Nova oil field altogether. Now, it would mean the permanent loss of nearly 900 direct jobs. But in a sign of just how fluid the situation is, Suncor is looking at a second scenario. It's also seeking proposals for the modernization of subsea infrastructure in the field, which would extend the life of the project by a decade and allow for the production of 80 million barrels of oil. Suncor says it has to plan for both as it continues to evaluate options for the Terra Nova. Meanwhile, an offer of $175 million in public money remains up in the air.
It's a pretty complicated process. It's not just the provincial government. In fact, the The partnership group in this case in the Terra Nova involves 7 partners, each with perhaps competing priorities, different objectives. So it's not simple. And again, we're talking about billions of dollars here. I think that we as the provincial government have done everything we can in our power to work with the groups. And the good news, if there is an optimistic point here, is that even though deadlines have come and gone, there continue to be conversations, and that to me always spells hope.
Well, the province's Oil and Gas Industries Association released a statement today saying the permanent shutdown of the Terra Nova would be devastating for the province and those whose livelihoods depend on it. Well, Anthony, 2 hikers are stepping up to do something about all that garbage piling up on their favorite trail.
Yeah, and this couple is speaking out tonight, encouraging others to stop littering at the historic Signal Hill site. Here now is Jeremy Eaton with that story.
Jennifer and Nick Chernachan love hiking Signal Hill. They're on the trail twice a week. Some days, though, they spend more time bent over than upright.
A little bit disappointing in a sense. Like, it's such a beautiful spot and we're so lucky to live here. I mean, we talk all the time, like we said, we come up here twice a week, and it's such a beautiful spot, and it does take away from that.
The biggest culprits: dog poop bags, paper coffee cups, and lots of discarded tissues.
That's what the shocking thing is, coming here and seeing, like, I just don't understand how there's so much trash at a historic site, especially.
The two moved to St. John's from Calgary 3 years ago and hike the trail year-round. But they can only do so much.
But we could do more. We just don't always want to be carrying a bag of trash when we're hiking.
We got some beer cans.
The couple has been in contact with Parks Canada about the problem. The agency who oversees the parks in this province isn't too pleased with what it's seeing as well. Back in March, they took to social media themselves, showing trash picked up in Terra Nova National Park. A spokesperson for the group says litter can disrupt local wildlife, making it harmful for those using the park. Tossing trash also violates the National Parks Act, which can result in fines. Parks Canada is urging people to leave no trace when using any of its sites and trails. The Chernachans would like to see more signs saying that.
At the very top, at the start of the North Head Trail, there's no signs about, like, do your part, or don't leave bags, even if they're disposable. Don't leave the bags lying around.
But it's not just here. Social media has been filling up the last few weeks with people posting pics of cleanups across the province. While wind and weather may be to blame for some trash lying around, it's a people-created problem.
Taking ownership as individuals and then doing your part when you see it to just pick it up. And you don't have to pick up everything. You don't have to carry garbage bags around, but picking up the odd can, picking up the odd Mary Brown's container or Tim Hortons cup, that makes all the difference, right?
The Chernachans and Parks Canada both agree that this is not everybody. It's just a few bad apples, a little too lazy to pack out what they pack in. We've seen multiple comments online today from other people who are doing this exact same thing. Now, everyone involved in this would hope that folks will take ownership of the sites in the province so that other people aren't left carrying the garbage bag. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a beautiful evening out there now. Really windy though, and we did just see some showers. We're looking at those showers for the next couple of hours, at least the potential, but I'll get into those details coming up.
before we have a look at the weather, Ashley, it was a big morning for rowers with the Royal St. John's Regatta today.
Yeah, for the first time since 2019, they were allowed to hit the water. Last month, the committee had their return to play plan approved. Right now, that means practice only.
Yes, it's still too early to say whether the regatta itself will go ahead this year, but ask some of the rowers who got into the shells today and they'll tell you it felt like old pre-pandemic times, but with masks, of course. I bet they were very happy to get out on the water this morning.
Definitely, and conditions certainly looked nice this morning. Temperatures climbed pretty beautifully this afternoon as well, reaching 10 degrees in St. John's, but those winds ramped up this afternoon for sure, seeing gusts pretty strong through the afternoon. Terra Nova saw a high near 11 degrees. Same thing for Bonavista. That was the warm spots across the province. 6 degrees in Corner Brook today, 2 in Lab City, and then Cartwright hit 8 degrees earlier this afternoon. Now those temperatures dropped quite significantly in St. John's, only sitting around 2 degrees right now, 6 in Gander. The temperature's been jumping up and down through most of the evening hours, and 4 degrees in Corner Brook, and then we still have that temperature around 7 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. So taking a look at the satellite and radar, we did see some thunderstorms a little bit earlier today for Bonavista North. Even some lightning showed up a little bit earlier as well for the south coast. Some showers and graupel are working their way across the Avalon as we speak. So we'll probably see a few more showers before that's all said and done. And again, some of that graupel will be in the mix as we head through the overnight tonight. There's those showers there being picked up pretty well by the future tracker. So as we head towards, say, 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight, most of the skies should clear for the island, except for the northern peninsula. And then things are going to stay unsettled across Labrador. The potential for a few flurries or some light snow tonight in the west, where you'll see probably around 2 centimeters of snow. Similar forecast up through northern portions of Labrador, and then through central, some showers mixed with flurries as we head through the overnight tonight. As far as temperatures go, we should see the coolest temperatures in the west for Labrador, Lab City down to -2, and then between 0 and 2 degrees for the remainder of the Big Land. And then across the island, some showers will continue along the west coast, maybe some flurries in some of those higher elevations, temperatures hovering around 0 to 3 degrees, and then those clearing skies for the story for the remainder of the island, but you are looking at those winds staying brisk tonight. Out of the west, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, pretty much even up through northern portions of Labrador. It's going to be a windy evening tonight. As we head through the day tomorrow, the day starts off nice. We should see a mix of sun and cloud, or at least some sunshine to start the day. Then the clouds will be on the increase for the island into the afternoon. Anywhere along the northeast, we'll see that potential for a few showers to move through, and then staying unsettled across Labrador as well. The flurries will change over to rain as those temperatures jump up into the afternoon. Maybe not so much for the northern portions. You'll still see some snow in the mix. Shouldn't accumulate too much, maybe a couple more centimeters on tap for you. Most of the south coast should see plenty of sunshine tomorrow afternoon. It's just that low pressure system just sitting offshore. Temperatures tomorrow should reach the double digits. I have 11 degrees for St. John's, but those winds are going to stay brisk. Again, we're not really going to see any relief from those winds until about Wednesday, with westerly winds gusting anywhere from 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Should reach the double digits towards Clarenville as well. Bonavista, I have you sitting around 8 degrees with the potential for a few showers. The showers may skirt the northern Avalon tomorrow afternoon, but otherwise it does look like sunshine should be the story. As we head towards central, 8, 9, 10 degrees as your afternoon highs, and again along the south coast, plenty of sunshine. Temperatures potentially reaching 10 degrees in Burgeo, and then up across Labrador, or up across the west coast rather, 8 degrees the story for Corner Brook, and those winds will be breezy as well. For southeastern Labrador, the more north we get, the cooler the temperature. So Cartwright sitting around 3 degrees, 2 in Makkovik with that light snow continuing, a couple centimeters on tap for you. And then towards Lab West, 4 degrees will be the daytime high for you with some rain in the mix. So that's a look at the forecast for tomorrow. We'll look ahead and some warmer temperatures when I come back.
Great, thanks so much, Ashley. Well, Alex Newhook is one step closer to taking the ice in the NHL.
Yeah, the 20-year-old from St. John's was added to the Colorado Avalanche's taxi squad. Now, here he is boarding the team's plane, as you see him there. Now, joining the taxi squad means that Newhook will practice with the Avalanche and join team activities, but it's not clear if this means he'll make his NHL debut tonight against the San Jose Sharks.
Newhook has 9 points in 8 American Hockey League games this season and won a silver medal with Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships in January. Good luck.
We wanted to be informed so that we could help our members and our community and our elders escape, run from this fire.
Fort McMurray, 5 years later, some residents are still concerned.
And pushing for a proper evacuation plan should another disaster strike. That story in 10 minutes.
Well, a new independent report on the state of post-secondary education is calling for the province to lift a long-standing tuition freeze and to grant more autonomy to Memorial University and College of the North Atlantic. Joining me now with reaction is MUN President Diane Timmons. So, Ms. Timmons, you've had a few days to digest the 350-page report. What did you make of what it had to say and the recommendations?
So the report is very comprehensive, and I think it reflects the extent of the consultations that were done and undertaken. So overall, pleased with the report. I think it's realistic and it reflects the community feedback that was received.
A big part of the report that everyone paid attention to, of course, is the recommendation to lift the tuition freeze. It's been in place for nearly 2 decades now. Where do you stand on that?
So I'm open, and the university is open to that discussion, definitely. We see the importance of looking at revenue for the university, but we have some principles that we always will keep in mind. We want the university education to be accessible. We want to make sure that our Newfoundland and Labrador students are supported and have supports in place so that it's not undue hardship for them financially. And right now, there is no intention of making any changes for the tuition for next year.
When would be the earliest, do you think, that if tuition were to be raised, when would be the earliest that could happen?
Well, we'd have to weigh everything, but it definitely won't be for this fall.
Could it be for the following year?
Well, I can't speculate when it would be, but definitely not this fall.
What about keeping the university affordable for students? What are your concerns there?
Well, we would always keep that as a principle, that the university education is affordable to students. So that will be really important to us. So if there's a tuition increase, we would look at setting up bursary and scholarships for students in need and financial need. I think that is a path forward if we go that route.
It is a controversial topic, a lot of pressure from students, from the public, and from politicians. When it comes to this idea of raising the tuition, how do you get past all of that and I guess make the decision that's best for the university itself?
Well, we have to weigh a lot of things when we do that, but we do know that being this dependent on government funding is not healthy for our university. So we want to be more independent. The report has indicated that that is an objective we should work towards. So that will be important, I think, to look at the report, all of its recommendations, and what it would mean to implement them.
How badly does the university need the revenue right now? Can you give us a sense of the state of the finances of Memorial University right now?
So since 2016, we had a $42 million cut to our university. We have lost 10% of our employees, faculty and staff. 20% of our administration is gone. It is, if you look at our buildings, we don't get funding now for deferred maintenance from government. We really need to put some resources into our buildings and programs. So this is a critical time for Memorial University, and I'm looking forward to our university maintaining the quality that it has. But to do that, we are going to need appropriate resources.
And you've been in this job now for a year, so you've had a chance to really, look into everything and understand how it all works. What area in terms of finances do you think really needs to change?
Well, the deferred maintenance is huge here. I mean, we need to, I came from another university, so I have that experience. I've actually been at 4 universities. Memorial University is a beautiful campus, but the deferred maintenance is critical right now. We must invest in our buildings and in the place.
The PCs made a few statements about the report, saying that they feel that the university needs a deeper dive into the budget and the books, and that they're concerned about what they call lavish spending.
They got an infrastructure deficit. We get there's wage increases happening. There's pay raises. A lot of lavish spending.
And I was very disappointed to hear that comment. It's an uninformed comment, and the authors of this report did a deep dive into our finances, and they came out saying that we need more, well, we definitely don't need to be cut, came out of the report, and we need to look at alternate sources of revenue. So I'm not sure where that comment came from. I've been at this university a year, and I will say that every single penny spent is scrutinized. It is a very lean institution. I mean, just think of losing 10% of your workforce while your enrollments are increasing. And this university also managed through a very challenging pandemic without a handout to government. Other universities in Nova Scotia and Ontario got government support during this challenging time. We did not, and we did not ask for it. We recognized the situation the province was in, and we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could through this pandemic.
In terms of finding ways to save money, has the university looked at things like salaries, finding ways to reduce salaries maybe at the executive level, the dean's office, vice president's office, the president's office? Is that something that's been looked at?
Absolutely, we've looked at salary. Our faculty are one of the lowest paid faculties in Atlantic Canada. A number of years ago, it did a review of all executive salaries and reduced executive salaries. We just hired a new provost, and we hired her below the national average for salary. So it's something we look at all the time. We look at many areas of our campus. But there's a point that you need to invest. You need to invest in the post-secondary system. And that time, I believe, is now. I will say this government, the government of Newfoundland, it cares about post-secondary education. I mean, it has invested a tremendous amount. It doesn't need to invest that much. I'd like to see us reduce our dependency on government funding and help the province get out of the economic challenge that it's in right now.
The Green Report is going to be coming out soon, and we know that Moya Green and the team will be looking at Memorial University. Do you have any thoughts or expectations on what may be coming out of that report?
I do not. I'm like everyone else, I'm waiting to see. But I do know to have a healthy economy, you should have a healthy university. We're an economic driver for this province. We want to continue to be. We brought in last year $160 million in research. That translates into grad students. We also are a solution for the immigration, the demographic challenge. We have, 19% of our student population is international. We need to make sure that our international students get co-op jobs and see a place for them to stay here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So, I know if our province is to be healthy, the university will be critical on that path.
All right, Vi Timmins, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, today marks the 5th anniversary of the devastating wildfire that ripped through Fort McMurray. Thousands were forced to flee, including many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. The fire destroyed 10% of that town. Total damage, $10 billion. The province's response was criticized, and while some improvements have been made, there are still concerns about getting people out if there's another disaster. Jamie Malbeuf has that story.
The forest on the other side was burnt.
Duchess Sabovich still misses the forest that was once behind her home. The marsh that's left, a bitter reminder of her terrifying escape 5 years ago. Sabovich shot this video while fleeing Fort McMurray on the back of a motorcycle with her husband. They were stuck in a fiery gridlock for 9 hours.
We both still have a little bit of PTSD issues.
The Horse River wildfire forced over 80,000 people to evacuate the community. More than 2,400 structures burned. 86% have been rebuilt, but many empty lots remain.
We weren't even able to defend ourselves.
Brian Fayant and other Indigenous leaders say communication was a problem.
We wanted to be informed so that we could help our members and our community and our elders escape, run from these fires.
An independent report said if nothing changes, the province can expect something similar or worse to happen again.
That was a very powerful fire and very difficult to work, a very difficult situation for everyone. But there were some important things that came out.
There has been progress made on all 10 recommendations from the report, including fire forecasting starting earlier in the season.
And that gives us more time to get people trained, more time to get people ready and positioned.
And when a big fire does break out, the municipality, province, and Indigenous leaders are in the same room. But one glaring problem hasn't been resolved. There's still only one road in and out of Fort McMurray. A proposed second highway is being studied.
That is something that I would like to see done. It's something that we advocated for strongly.
But it would cost about $1.5 billion.
When I look at provincial and federal budgets, that there isn't a lot of money to spend on these things, but we just have to continue the advocacy.
In the meantime, Fire Chief Jody Butts says evacuation plans have improved.
We are much better than we were 5 years ago, and I can say that with 100% confidence.
Sabovich, like many people here, would feel safer with a second road as she still struggles with what happened.
My faith gets me through most things. I'm blessed with health, and our house keeps standing. I don't know.
And she's already planted new trees here, hoping there will be a forest for the next generation. Jamie Malbuff, CBC News, Fort McMurray.
Welcome back. An Atlantic Canadian company is getting a big boost. It's developing technology that uses greenhouse gases to grow fish food. Halifax-based Denova is getting $2.6 million from the federal government's Ocean Supercluster Innovation Program. It's a big investment in a company with big ambitions. Paul Withers has that story.
Denova is developing its technology at a laboratory at the National Research Council in Halifax. CEO Brianna Stratton hopes to outgrow it very soon.
And it's a global market that we're interested in. Denova's mission is to really target the largest feed manufacturers.
The company plans to capture methane from flare gas in the oil and gas sector, convert it to methanol, which will feed and ferment microbes in bioreactors. Once the bacteria is grown out, it is dried to a powder that can be added as an ingredient in feed pellets in aquaculture. It's being tested right now here at the sprawling Centre for Aquaculture Technology in Surrey, PEI. Protein powder and fish pellets have already been fed to juvenile Atlantic salmon. Later this month, scientists will test de novo treated pellets in adult Atlantic salmon, completing a life cycle evaluation of the fish.
It had really powerful results. Certainly very healthy fish across all of our test diets, and very bioavailable, digestible, happy fish. So we're excited, and we believe that we're going to have the same results in this trial.
While de novo is still a startup company, it has some major supporters behind it.
Today, we are excited to announce 4 new projects.
Today, the Ocean
with a total
Supercluster
project
announced de novo will lead what it calls a sustainable protein for aquaculture project valued at $6 million. A little less than half of that will come from Ottawa, the rest from partners which includes Canadian fish farming giant Cook Aquaculture and Cuna Del Mar, owner of the Surrey facility. It's a U.S. investment fund backed by the Walton family, founders of Walmart.
We really think we have something special here, but it's moving from how do you do this at lab scale, and how do you now move this to being in the hundreds of thousands of ton scale in much larger operations.
De novo plans to build a prototype facility within 3 years and take its product to market in 5. It's bid to become a player in the world's fastest growing food sector. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
The single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine is now being recommended for all Canadians 30 years of age and older. Still, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization says people should weigh the risks and benefits.
At this time, based on the current evidence, NACI recommends that, similar to the AstraZeneca vaccine, the Janssen vaccine may be offered to individuals 30 years of age and older without contraindications if the individual prefers an earlier vaccine rather than waiting for an mRNA vaccine, and if the benefits outweigh the risks.
Now, that committee, or NACI, says the vaccine is safe and effective, but acknowledged the potential risk of a rare and new blood clotting disease known as VITT. Canada is yet to distribute any J&J doses in the country, but in the United States, out of the 8 million doses administered, there have been 17 confirmed cases of VITT. Nova Scotia is watching a new and worrying increase in COVID-19 cases. 146 new cases today, 133 cases yesterday. Well, that's prompted a new strategy, rapid asymptomatic testing. The CBC's Kayla Hounsell has more.
Hospitals in Halifax have reached a critical point.
I'm worried, and I'm a bit upset that we've rocked our apple cart of so little COVID for so long.
This ICU doctor says they currently have 6 COVID patients intubated, and for this province, that's a big deal.
In all of the first wave, we had a total of 8 intubated COVID patients over the span of the several weeks and months of the first wave.
I'm not trying to scare people, but I need to be blunt. This situation is very serious.
This weekend's huge numbers are part of a backlog as the province works to process tens of thousands of lab tests. But this scene is a key part of Nova Scotia's strategy as the fight unfolds. People lined up to get a rapid test with no symptoms and no reason to believe they've been exposed.
We've been testing almost between 3 and 5% of the Halifax Regional Municipality area several days in a row, each day.
As of Wednesday, more than 33,000 people were tested this way during the current outbreak. 75 have been positive. But Barrett says the numbers are not what's most important. Even if one of these people tests positive, that's one person then isolating and not walking around in the community, potentially infecting so many more.
We have the highest per capita rate of testing in the country.
Rapid testing is driven entirely by volunteers.
You can put people on the moon. You can probably figure out how to teach someone to put a swab towards the back of someone's nose without calling it a liability, a problem, or an impossibility. So those are what I would call really poor excuses.
As hundreds step up to volunteer, 27 people were ticketed $2,000 each this weekend for violating lockdown regulations. It flies in the face of thousands lining up to get tested.
Public service, it's my second test. The rest of the world can really learn from what we're doing.
Health officials call it a movement, one more tool in a complex fight. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, COVID-19 vaccinations are expected to ramp up significantly across the country this month. Pfizer alone will be shipping more than 2 million doses every week, and Pfizer is looking closely at vaccinating young people. One expert says this is important if we want to resume in-class learning everywhere in Canada this fall.
Have to vaccinate them eventually, and because we have data for the 12 and up group from Pfizer, if we find ourselves with a lot of Pfizer doses in the coming months, which it looks like we will, it's going to be important to start vaccinating those teenagers to allow them to be able to go to high school safely without the worry of having an outbreak in their particular school.
Pfizer says its vaccine showed 100% efficacy and a robust antibody response in people between 12 and 15 years of age. The vaccine also performed well in a slightly older age group. Studies are now underway to determine safety and efficacy in children as young as 6 months.
Well, we often show you a bird's eye view from the rooms with our St. John's Harbour camera, but how about Sydney, Australia?
Yes, thanks to a heavy blanket of smoke and fog, it's looking a lot like St. John's. Just have a look. Yeah, this time-lapse video shows the smog, wow, blotting out the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House. Now they're doing controlled burns there to reduce the risk of forest fires.
Yeah, several ferry routes across the harbour were suspended today. And the smog caused problems for drivers earlier this morning. Yep, there it goes.
Wow. That is intense.
Very intense. Oh, beautiful shots though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're not seeing too much in the way of fog across the island today, which was good news. And the good thing is tomorrow's going to be fairly quiet. We're in for a couple of quiet days across the province as we head into Wednesday as well. You can see plenty of sunshine to start the day. Cloud cover though, a little bit of cloud cover up across Labrador, still hanging on to the potential for some flurries as well through the day on Wednesday. Certainly for the northern portion, and even as we head into the evening hours on Wednesday for Lab West, you'll see that potential move in. As the day goes on for the island on Wednesday, we're going to see those clouds on the increase, certainly into the evening hours, and that next weather maker will move in, again bringing the potential for some snow for Labrador and then rain. The story across the island as we head into the afternoon on Thursday. The winds are going to ramp up again, and in some of that higher elevation, we could see the potential for some snow again because of those colder upper levels. And that's the story across Labrador as well as we head into Friday morning. So it will be unsettled over as we head towards the end of the week anyway. Before we get there though, like I said, plenty of sunshine Wednesday, beautiful temperatures, back to those spring-like conditions, 11 to 14 degrees, a little cooler for the northern peninsula, about 8 to 9 degrees, a little bit more cloud cover on tap for you. And then temperatures into the single digits across the Big Land. Happy Valley Goose Bay should stay dry, but cloudy through the day on Wednesday. As we head into Thursday, those temperatures are going to drop down to the single digits, about 5 to 8 degrees, 9 for Gander as we head into the afternoon on Thursday. Again, this rain will move in as the day goes on. Snow the story for Lab City and Happy Valley Goose Bay. You're going to see showers, but as the day goes on for you, the chance of some flurries will be in the mix. So after that, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, looking unsettled. Some showers will continue right through the day. Saturday looks like it might clear later on in the day. Sunday's actually looking pretty nice at this point. And then as far as central Labrador goes, or central Newfoundland goes, a similar forecast as far as those showers. Friday and Saturday looking a little bit warmer, 10 to 13 degrees. And then for the west coast, similar temperatures, 12 to 13 degrees with the potential for some showers sticking around as we head into the beginning of the weekend. For eastern Labrador, 8 degrees will be the story, so temperature isn't really going to be moving much for you as you head into the weekend. Some flurries possible by Thursday, but by Friday, that should all fall as rain. And then for western Labrador, still have that snow in the forecast right through the weekend, although daytime highs should reach the mid-single digits. Wanted to share this photo. Red sky at night in Gambo. Trevor shared that photo with us. Thank you so much for that. And if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Wow, that is
great
beautiful.
orange.
I love it. I love sunsets.
And sunrises.
And sunrises. I love them all.
And you say that Sunday is looking good?
So far, so good, but we'll see.
Mother's Day?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It is Mother's Day.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Mother's Day.